Today we're going to be tying an Edward style intruder. So I've got this intruder rigged up old school, meaning that we've got the line running through into a mono knot at the end of the shank. We're going to leave some shank to throw some junction tubing on so you can imagine what that would look like, just like that. Know how to rig that way? Watch the video in the description. So I'm going to start about 1/8 of an inch in front of the loop, and we're going to start up a nice little jelly chenille here. I know that Edward, at least in Skagit Master, the intruder that I saw him tie, he was using chenille for the start of his prop. So I'm going to wrap that up, capture that down. Anything that got trapped forward, go ahead and pull that back, capture that back. I'm using a uni-thread 6/0 thread in black, by the way. If you're curious specifically what material this is, there it is. Next, we're going to tie in some red schlop in front of that, and we're just going to pull off the fluffy stuff at the bottom. Keep that relatively sparse, just about 1.5 inches. Go ahead and capture that down right in front of your jelly ball. 2 wraps back. That'll make sure you can't pull it out. And pull it taut and massage the fibers. And wrap that up right in front. And capture that down. And throw in some red ostrich at this point. We only need it to be, hook will be coming off here. We only need to end around there. So just pick your fibers accordingly. Don't waste your longest fibers. Now that looks like a lot, but you have to understand that once that's wet, flowing in the water, that's really not going to be all that intrusive. So no pun intended. We're going to tie that in directly on the side. A few light wraps in on the side, and then just gently pull them apart. Do the same thing on the other side. At this point, we're going to be spinning up some Amherst. So go ahead and grab, we want this to be about half as long as the actual ostrich itself. Then I'm going to form a dubbing loop that's about 3 inches long. Add some dubbing wax to that. Close that loop. Open. Take a soft brush and brush it out. Wrap that right in front of your ostrich. Okay, awesome. We're going to tie in some chenille. This chenille's got a little bit of flash in it. It's like brown and black barred with some pearl flash. So just strip away stuff we're not going to use. Your thread up to about 1/8 of an inch behind the eyes. We're going to work that chenille down tight right in front of our rear station. Just work this up. Now give yourself some room. So we're actually going to stop this, I'd say closer to 1/4 inch behind the eyes. So we're actually going to go old school for this. We're going to use some brown deer hair. We're going to spin up a prop for this intruder. So I always like to think of it in the size of like about a pencil. Then just think about how big you want that prop to be. So I only want it to obviously be just as long as the body of the fly. So you don't need to tie all this in and trim it later. Just trim it now. So we'll want it to be about that long. So 2 loose wraps. Start to let it spin, pull it tight. Kind of shape those back how you would trim a muddler. We're going to spin some black ostrich up into a loop. I want those to be as long as the length of the fly. Work your fingers down the spine of an ostrich feather so that the individual fibers stick out. I like to go in with a clamp. And this is actually a really good place to go in with your bodkin and make sure everything's evenly spaced out before you put it in the loop, believe it or not, not after. Now, the more evenly spaced out this is, the more evenly it will spin. So we've got those all separated. Get your fingers wet, pull it all back one way. Make sure you capture everything back before the next turn. So I think the essence of an Edward intruder is creating a lot of perceptive volume in a fly with very little actual bulky materials. So they're often hollow looking, see through them, very leggy, very buggy flies. Go in and just capture some of those tag ends, pull them back tight. You can actually see if I change perspectives here, just how evenly spread that ostrich is. That all just comes from making sure that every fiber is perfectly spaced out from the next before you spin it. Obviously, if there's clumps before you spin it, they're still going to be there after you do. We're going to tie in some grizzly saddle hackles. as the wing feathers. So we're going to tie those in as long as the fly. So that's it for the first feather. Go in for the next one, make it the same length. Capture those down tight after you've positioned them. What I like to do at this point is actually throw some wax on, generous amount of wax. Got that from like watching Atlantic flies being tied. They like to wax their thread a lot. And grab a nice big guinea feather. This is like fluorescent pink steelhead or something. 3-4 wraps. Trim them all. That'll prevent it from coming out when you do the next part. Fold these all back. And I want these laying flat back over the body. I don't want them sticking out awkwardly. Now I describe all the materials we used today as buggy, leggy. That's what this Edward-inspired intruder is all about. Go ahead and capture that down, then put your thread in front of your eyes. That's where we're going to whip finish. And with some UV resin. This is the thin, hard show restraint, just like with thread. We don't want it to be bulky. Materials, we don't want it to be overly bulky. Okay, go ahead and set that. Zap both sides quickly first, and then hold it. The rigging demonstration on this would be like this. So you would thread your line through there, split the middle of the fly between your wings. I know I'm blocking this, but run it through that monoloop that we created at the back, and then just, like I said, go ahead and split everything in the fly. Make sure nothing's stuck. Thread on some junction tubing to the back. So tie your hook on a loop that is slightly longer than the junction tubing. So at the back of the fly, you have your shank left out. We're gonna push our junction tubing onto our shank. You could actually just pull that on now. Now you're gonna have a knot that's gonna be pretty hard to pull through there. So just grab the fly by the eyes and then pull your tippet tight. So what you'll be left with is something like that, so the hook can freely swing. If you want it tighter, just pull the tubing back further. So there it is, the Edward intruder, or Edward-inspired intruder at the very least. Be sure to subscribe and check out more videos. Other than that, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much. Later.